Hello and welcome to SME TV. I'm your host, Angela Vithoulkas. There is no doubt that the hospitality industry is in crisis. You only have to look around. Is the government doing enough to keep the doors open, or is it keeping businesses propped up artificially, just delaying the inevitable? And what will the industry look like post-COVID-19? Well, stay watching this episode of SME TV News and Views to find out. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel to support us and all SMEs. We encourage you to comment, tell us what you think, and share SME TV. Joining us today to discuss the current and future outlook for the hospitality sector is the CEO of Restaurant Catering Australia, Wes Lambert. Hello and welcome.
Welcome, thank you.
Thank you for making the time, and I'm going to say very quickly, we love your fork pin.
Thank you very much.
Do you have a knife to match?
I do not. It ran away with the spoon.
Well done. Okay, now your role with Restaurant Catering Australia, how long have you been in that role now?
Just over a year. I started in May of 2019.
Okay, so you had 6 months before we delivered you a pandemic to deal with.
Actually, 2020 is the perfect storm. Droughts, bushfires, floods, and pandemic.
So God hates hospitality industry and has delivered us almost all of the locusts. We're missing locusts and
we need a plague and pestilence, and we will...
we got the plague?
Yes, pestilence is all we have left.
Well, in Sydney where we are, the rats that run around might fit into that category, so we can tick that one off the list as well. Okay, so in your role in restaurant and catering, you might be the first person that I remember having an actual hospitality background as the CEO.
I don't know beyond the past three, but yes, it does help to have a hospitality background to run a hospitality industry association. And in fact, most of our new hires and anyone that we interview for roles, it's very important that they have some hospitality because you need to feel for a hospitality business. It's not just policy, it's actually
We're a very unique breed. Yes, it is the lifestyle, because most of us either fall into the industry because we thought it was the only job we could get, and then we grow to love it. And then there's those that choose to have ridiculous hours, a massive amount of stress. There's no other job where you are working to deadlines that are so small and so constant all the time, depending on everything going right. I don't know of any other job or industry that's quite like hospitality. I did read of a study, this was many years ago though, that Monash University did that said hospitality was more stressful than being an air traffic controller. So I'm always happy to say that if you can do it in hospitality, then you can make it almost anywhere.
It is certainly a high stress. It's a high stress career. However, chefing is a profession. You learn how to do it, and you practice it your whole life. That sounds like law. That sounds like medicine. That sounds like any other profession to me. So certainly is a rewarding career, and around the world, it's renowned for being a top career. So it's very important that we bring those values back to Australia, that being in hospitality isn't just a job, it is a career.
There's not enough focus on that. I'm going to jump back to that after I've asked you the other 150 questions that I have, because apprenticeship training and training for the industry overall, I think definitely needs to be looked at, particularly the financial learnings that most of us as business owners don't have and should have. So I want to come back to that. What do you think your association brings to the table for the members?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. So ultimately,
on behalf of all the members, I'm asking you.
So ultimately, it's not just about member benefits. So industry associations for a long time have practiced advocacy almost in the shadows or quietly, and no value was attributed to advocacy. Now, advocacy is the #1 product that an industry association can do during this crisis. And so it is our #1 product. If you want to get in contact with me or with Restaurant and Catering because you want us to tell what you want directly to a parliamentarian or a premier, we will do that. So we are your voice to the government. In addition, there's many other things that Restaurant and Catering has, like industrial relations, training and education, and we have discounts with lots and lots of suppliers. We certainly try to deliver value to our members. exponentially more than their membership fee.
In terms of one of the big roles in advocacy that you have to play, which was always prevalent, but now more so than ever, is all around industrial relations, wages. We've had a massive spotlight on hospitality because of wage theft, and I'm going to put that in inverted commas because I do not believe most of the negative press that we get as an industry, and I still say we, but also right now you're finding yourself in the role of advocate, a powerful advocate because of the Jobkeeper programs, which have hit the industry. We've been one of the hardest hit hospitality because we had to shut our doors. We were the easiest, we are so many, so we were the easiest to control quickly to say, right, you have to close, no one's going out, no one's going to go out for coffee, you're all closed, restaurants were closed, everything. They all pivoted, Wes. Fantastic. They've been delivering to homes. Lovely. Jobkeeper came in, propped up the industry. We'll talk about the fact that it might be artificial. We'll get to the financials of the businesses. But Jobkeeper 2.0, that is not good.
It certainly has some wording that is troubling to the hospitality industry, the entire accommodation food service industry. Ultimately, it is an amazing program that tapers off Jobkeeper across 2 more quarters, which the hospitality industry desperately needs. However, there is some wording around qualifying, which requires you to be down 30% in both the June and September quarter. Now, many of our members and many businesses in...
compared to which quarters though?
Previous year.
The previous year.
Yeah.
Right.
So many businesses in accommodation food service, and I've spoken to other industry associations at length in the past 48 hours, they were doing what the government said, trying to improve. They were pivoting, they were bringing on employees, they were doing whatever they could to get back up from the down 60% on average in April. And they recovered some in May and school holidays, and they recovered some in June, and they got to 30 June. And they thought, okay, we know we have 3 more months of Jobkeeper, and everyone is telling us that Jobkeeper is going to get extended.
Yes. And
then Victoria got locked down after the 1st of July. And now New South Wales is facing further restrictions, and Queensland is adding hotspots that you cannot travel from New South Wales to Queensland. South Australia has now closed its border or refused to open its border to New South Wales. These are restrictions that affect businesses. So there's very little domestic visitors, and there are no international tourists.
And won't be for some time.
And won't be for some months or years. So here you have these hospitality businesses in many jurisdictions who are now restricted after 30 June. They tried their best. Their businesses are now way down, double digits, potentially 30, 40, 50% down from last year. However, because of the wording of Jobkeeper 2.0, if they were 29.5%, 29.99% down from last year, April to June, they know now for 9 months that they won't be qualified for Jobkeeper 2.0, and there is no way to qualify unless that word is changed to average.
So let's be hopeful that that will resolve itself. So we'll pretend for a moment, parallel, we'll run this conversation, that we're hopeful that that will turn around and most of us will still be eligible. Let's park that. On the other side of that, though, is the fact that with these businesses being so down, the hospitality industry is so courageous. We fight through almost anything. So a lot of these businesses have been open to keep their staff employed so that they have somewhere to go, because the emotional toil of shutting your business completely has such a profound effect on everyone, mental health-wise, that it's better to go and open. But the amount of business that they've lost, they're going into debt. They aren't making money. Even with Jobkeeper, they aren't making money. All they're doing is transferring an amount from one side of a column to the other, and it is ridiculous that our governments don't understand what exactly it's taking them to stay open. It would almost be cheaper for them to stay closed and just have the Jobkeeper for keeping staff and keeping the economy going and not worry about anything else, except they've got rent. They've got a landlord that's going to be breathing down their neck. The landlord's not going to go, you know, the wording on Jobkeeper might not be favourable, bad luck, you need to still pay me the rent. And you've got to deal with that too. So we're looking at an industry who is extremely hot in the negatives. So how are we going to come through this? Because you're dealing with an industry who isn't always known for its financial nous. That's the truth. We love what we do. That doesn't mean we love the other side of the business. And how are we going to get through this? Because you are going to find a lot of your members in trouble.
There are a lot of members in trouble. One is advocacy.
Yep.
We speak to the government many times a day to get words like both changed to average. Working on programs like in Victoria with $554,000 with a huge portion for hospitality specifically. Working on things like the mandatory landlord code of practice continuing. Yep. Working on things like the deductibility of business meals, which when the CBD businesses do return,
yep,
they will eat out instead of catering in, which will absolutely help the industry. It's things like...
That's an interesting one to note. Yep, keep going.
It's things like removing FBT for the next couple of years so that the sin of eating out and having a long lunch goes away. It's things like allowing GST to be on top of the bill, like many other industries, instead of included in the price. That will be a bump of 10% directly to that business instantaneously. Why? Because right now, if you look at a menu price, the GST has to be deducted from that, which is odd because we all get invoices that say plus GST.
Yes.
So it's not...
outside of hospitality, yes.
Correct. It's not unprecedented. In fact, almost every other jurisdiction in the world adds sales tax, adds GST.
Or VAT, whatever they add.
VAT
exactly.
to the bill, not included in the price. Yep. So it's not a shock to anyone. They've seen it everywhere.
It's a shock that it wasn't done properly from the beginning.
Correct.
Because the food industry was hit with the GST issue around many things in Australia. It was just obscene the way some food was GST free and the other part wasn't. But if you serve it, it's GST. It's got a service component. And
back to your original question about industrial relations and us having a huge say in industrial relations. Restaurant and Catering is on one of the wage roundtable groups as an advisor to an industry group, and we're working very closely with the other industry associations and employer groups on the award simplification, simplifying the restaurant, hospitality and retail award. And as you said, the majority of underpayments are not intentional.
That's right.
We call them unintentional underpayments. I don't think Woolies underpaid $500 million intentionally. Ultimately, there's just no way that big public companies and medium-sized businesses and most small businesses wake up every morning and say, how can I underpay my employees? How can we figure out a way to prop up our public company balance sheet with something that maybe will come out as a scandal later? I don't think they're thinking.
No, I don't think, and I don't think we're going out on much of a limb to say that. I can assure you, amongst all of the friends that I have in hospitality, that is never a topic of conversation. In fact, most people that I know go out of their way to check those things, but some things do happen. And you do make mistakes for lots of reasons. Banks make mistakes all the time. They get to not only come out and correct it, but they get to ask for their money back if they've done a mistake that is a plus for someone else. So the fact that we tend to single out an industry and a small business industry, because I know that your membership is mostly small business owners.
93%
That's right.
of restaurants do less than $38,000 a week.
Yep.
30% do less than $5,000 a week. Lots of small businesses. And
they employ anywhere from 1 to 10 being the smaller amounts.
1 to 19 is 93%. But most of the businesses are mom and pop. Most businesses are husband, wife, brother, sister, mother, father.
It's been a family business for us for 30 years. It started out with my parents. Now it's just my brother and I. So we're a very traditional hospitality type family. We did it because we fell into it, we loved it. You stay in it because it's something that brings you joy amongst all the stress. But now you're fighting government, and we've always fought red tape and compliance, but it's part of our whinge, right? The prices of tomatoes and the red tape that we have to deal with, they join together. But we are at a stage now where I am so scared for this industry because we are fighting things that are not in our control. It doesn't matter how hard we work now, Wes. It doesn't matter how early we get up in the morning. It doesn't matter how many jobs or hats each individual hospitality owner wears. This is something that is so difficult. We need to be rescued and guided. I know you don't like the title Rockstar in hospitality, but every time I pulled up anything of you online, it's how others refer to you as. So amongst your Rockstar title, and we thank you for your service, your background in hospitality is quite unique, I think, for a CEO of any association. You started a little bit older than me. I was 3, but you were 14. You worked right through uni as a server. So you carried that through, and your first job out of uni was with the hospitality industry again.
Sort of. I was an investment banker in Restaurant Capital. So I went to the number side, to figuring out how they work.
But you have that numbers side anyway.
I'm a CPA.
That's right.
And understand it quite well.
Can you cook?
I used to be able to. Many chefs that I've worked with over the years have taught me a lot. In fact, Jamie Oliver, and watching his shows and hanging with him on occasion certainly rubbed off. I wish I had time.
He just tosses out that Jamie Oliver. You don't need to have talent, you just need to have the joy.
I said time.
Are you any good? Oh, time, excuse me. Are you any good?
I'm as good as I can be.
Okay. So do people eat your food?
No.
Right. I used to say that I always bring my own food. People would say, what's your favourite thing on the menu? And I go, no, I bring my own food.
I always say, when people say, what's your favourite food type? I say, what's my favourite item on every menu of every restaurant in Australia?
Yeah, but you're in a difficult position. What are you going to say?
I mean, I do have my favourite food type, but I would never say.
Do you have your favourite restaurant in each capital city?
Yes.
Right. But that's okay. Just quickly, what, if anything, are state governments doing better for hospitality than the feds? We've got Jobkeeper,
That's
whatever,
a bold question.
because the states are doing different things.
Each state is different.
Yes.
And each state has runs on the board, and each state has things that they can improve on.
Okay.
So, moving around the country, Western Australia had mandatory COVID-19 training straight away through the AHA. Great initiative. Meant that every employee, everyone who worked in hospitality understood right away.
And the other states were slow to do that?
There certainly has been a different response around the country between the mandatory nature of training versus the free training versus the go through a provider like Restaurant and Catering. We have COVID-19 training and are approaching 4,000 learners that have taken that course.
You can do it online? You can do it online
and earn a micro-credential. Ultimately, this is, that's the cornerstone is the training about COVID-19 and the things that you need to do as a hospitality professional. Many states immediately jumped in with stimulus packages, which have helped small businesses to recover. And most notably, the most recent is Victoria with $554 million with a nice special kicker for hospitality businesses, which will be rolled out in the coming weeks.
New South Wales?
Ultimately, their payroll tax and abatements and the changes to the Retail Leases Act certainly helped businesses. No specific stimulus yet, but ultimately, if there is a second set of restrictions or a second wave or lockdowns, we firmly believe that with our lobbying and the lobbying of other industry associations like us, that we will be able to.
And we're grateful for any payroll tax abatements, but as you said, the truth is that there are so many small businesses that won't have any impact on them. And the payroll abatement is good for all of the businesses, whereas we are facing specific crisis within hospitality industry. Because of our sheer numbers and being so labour intensive, the flow on of that is what is so intense, because we employ so many people and it's fresh fruit and produce that we get locally for the most part that we can. So we have this whole other flow on effect to everything else. There's so many stakeholders involved in hospitality that we're going to have a big impact if we go under. And that's the trouble, that government doesn't understand that.
So ultimately, when COVID-19 hit and 441,000 jobs were lost in accommodation and food service, and we remained the number one albeit for a short period, and arts and entertainment was number one, but remained the number one industry for job losses. And we remained so because businesses, even as they come back, even as they reopen, even as they pivoted to takeaway, self-delivery, app delivery, grocery, bespoke experiences, do whatever they could to do what the government said and try to improve and keep people employed, it's just never going to be enough with the domestic borders shut, so no visitors, and the international borders shut for no tourists. There's no way for the industry to recover when international tourists spend 30 cents on every dollar on accommodation and food service.
That's the reality, right? I mentioned in the introduction, what do we look like later? What is this industry going to face? And there is the inevitable financial crisis that is going to hit those individual operators because of the mountain that is there in front of them. You know you've got to pay your rent because you've got a lease. That's just how it is. Unless there is a special magic wand that gives money to the landlord instead of, or as well as everything else, unless they can give them more time, more tenure at that site to give them a chance to recover, which may or may not happen. All of these things, everything has to work out perfectly in order for recovery and reinstatement to take place. It's unlikely that will happen. Who knows where that will go? I was very unaware of the restaurant gift card. I did not know about it. Yes. Your eyes have just gone really wide then.
No.
I didn't know about it.
Really?
Yes, I'm ashamed to say I did not know about it.
We partnered with the restaurant card. It is actually a physical and a online card.
Yes.
That 100% of the card value goes to the restaurant. 100%. It's a payment method, just the merchant fees when you swipe, and which is very minimal for in modern times for merchant fees. This certainly will help to allow consumers to be cashless, to then give the restaurant card as gifts, knowing that there's no 10, 20, 30, 40% commission on that meal.
That's right, and it's about being able to support local economies, local industries, people and businesses who weren't signed up to something else. You can spread the love in as many places as you want with something like that.
Absolutely, it'll work in any restaurant in Australia.
It's a fantastic initiative, so where does the money go? They buy a card. They can get it through Woolies.
Yes.
Right. So you buy that card at Woolies, and how does the money go to the particular shop? Because it's run through the credit card machine?
It's a payment method.
It's a transaction.
So the shop gets it in the normal payment process.
Just like they would buy like a MasterCard, cash MasterCard or something like that. Yeah, it's fantastic.
With no commission.
With no commission. Yeah, you see. You say that again. Okay, your book, which I downloaded last night, only half read. When did you write it? At the beginning of the pandemic?
Through the pandemic.
Through the pandemic, okay.
So I don't...
Because you had no time or extra time? Or?
I'm highly productive. I don't sleep for a ridiculous amount of time.
Those of us in hospitality, we are, yes.
Yes, and I'm very focused on the weekends. So it was nights and weekends for about 2 months through the crisis. And obviously, towards the end, I had to go back and revise the first couple of chapters to the current situation. But strangely, I said, if a second wave comes or if we stay in crisis, it certainly will be helpful as a business to have a resource like this to get through. I didn't know that we were going to go from 10 cases in Victoria 39 days ago to over 400 today overnight with thousands active.
I know.
No one could predict that.
It's heartbreaking if you start to break down those numbers and have a look at it. I'm hopeful about our recovery, but it's heartbreaking with the data and the numbers that they actually are. Remind us again what it's called.
Saving hospitality. The 7 pillars to pivoting your business through
Why
crisis.
7? Is this your numbers background or?
It is. Ultimately, actually, I got them all into 7, and so it's very important to include all of them. There's 100 different pillars that you could follow. Each business type is different, but
each industry within our industry is different.
Of course, but to summarize them into some mastheads of ideas, plus I could have written the book for years, as some people, but I wanted to get it out and get it done.
And quickly right now, we have some time to read it now, maybe. The other thing that I want to touch on, and I'm going grossly over time, I know that, is the way that we train our hospitality people, our apprentices, and the fact that one of the key components of training our youth to come through so that this industry has a whole other new life to take on is that we need to give them financial training as well. Because if they are our future business owners, they are not getting that financial training to understand that it's not just about, oh, one day I want to have my own restaurant or my own cafe. It's a business. And it needs to be treated that way financially. It needs to be treated as an investment, and that you have to get a return on your investment, and that everything matters underneath. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how good your pasta is, you're not going to survive. Are we looking at adding that kind of training?
Absolutely. So Restaurant and Catering is an RTO in New South Wales, and we can deliver vet training around the country. We have a new learning academy, the Restaurant and Catering Learning Academy. We deliver micro-credentials, the first of which was the COVID-19 course. Great that you brought it up. We're actually going to be bringing in a Restaurant 101, 201, 301, 401 series of courses, where some of the first courses are, HR, payroll, so you understand the award. The P&Ls of restaurants, do you understand? Do you understand, the type of capital investment that it takes to open a restaurant and the ongoing costs? And, do you have 3 months or 6 months of working capital?
Yep.
Certainly rolling those out quickly, because there will be a lot of turnover as the industry begins to recover in COVID recovery. Up to 25% of the industry will have closed, but all of the tenancies will remain. All of the kitchens will still be there.
And they may be taken over by others.
They'll be empty for a while, and that will be very disappointing. However, the industry will recover, and those businesses need to be reopened
and be strong
and be credible, real businesses that can survive in the recovery period.
And that's the most important thing, because we will always face some kind of pandemic, whether it's a GFC or the recession that is here or about to descend upon us, or any other microclimate challenge like bushfires, drought, floods, all of those things. They happen a lot, and they always in the centre of that is a small business for some reason, and usually the hospitality industry. So having more bows on our arrows to be able to fight back is very important. And no pun intended for the courses, right? All these different courses, the food pun there. Nice. Thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate your time. We hope we have you back, because hospitality in crisis is a big deal in this country.
You're welcome.
Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can support us and all SMEs, and you can see other great interviews, something that will inspire you in your day-to-day business. A big shout out to the SMEA Association for their support of SME TV, and another shout out to Piedmont Studio for their great production. If you have any tips, tricks, comments, stories, anything at all, please send them directly to me. news@smea.org.au, and we're across all the socials. Thank you so much.